Welcome to Literally Books, the podcast. I'm Lindsay.
My name is Magda.
And we are doing a movie reaction for Bookish people this week, focused on Mickey 17.
So much to talk about. We just came off a really big deep dive on Mickey 7, and can't wait to talk more about it with you.
And a great conversation with Ashton, the writer of the book Mickey 7.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite interviews, although it's like picking my favorite children, but that was so fun.
It was a really fun one. It was definitely different. He definitely kept us on our toes.
Yes.
So freaking smart. It was a good time.
Yeah,
I learned a lot.
I feel like I did too. It was
Yeah.
like a really enlightening conversation. So it was kind of fascinating. We'd love to have him on the podcast again.
Me too. But before we get into our thoughts on the movie, what are you reading?
Okay, so I finished 2 books this week.
Of course you did. I'm just always like, oh, I have 15 meetings. I'm working till 9. I have to build a car, a spaceship, and then I also read 14 books. Your capacity to read is ridiculous.
But okay, this one were like some really easy reads. One of them, it deserves an eye roll. Okay, it's called A Deal with the Bossy Devil by Kyra Parsi. Book talk led me astray.
Uh-oh.
It was the whole purpose of the book. It's meant that this lady that has had this woman that is a 20-year-old woman had like some sort of like really big like traumas when she was 18 where she lost her scholarship to go to school, and that just kind of led her down like a really rebellious path. And then one time she was drunk, and then she went ahead and kicked a guy that turned out to be the boss of her sisters, and like the lady got fired, and then she had to go like beg the guy to like make a deal with her to be able to give her sister her job back because of the responsibilities of this lady. That's kind of crazy. Maybe I'm not explaining it correctly.
No, I'm just thinking like, why didn't the sister just get a different job? But
Exactly. And it was just like the power dynamics between this billionaire guy and this lady were so bad. The lady just was so childish. It was just not very well hashed out characters. It was just not for me. And guess why I had to read and finish this book?
Why?
Because I was on a plane and I did not download anything else, and I was stuck on a flight for 3 hours, and I was just like trying to read it. And once I got out of the plane, I was in it by like 70% of the book, so I had to finish it just to find out what happened. The ending got a little bit better, but it's enough for me.
The plane rides really get you. I appreciate your dedication though.
I was just like rolling my eyes. I'm like, and when I went and looked at some of like the reviews online, a lot of people like DNF'd it at 2%. And I'm like, yeah, I almost stopped. Like I actually got out of the book and tried to check if I had anything else downloaded to my e-reader to see if I could like do something else. And I didn't, which was, that was my mistake, poor planning.
No?
But it was bad. The main female character was so freaking annoying and childish. I understand that she had like a big traumatic event that happened when she was a senior in high school, but you're a 29-year-old woman now. Like, get your life together. That to me just did not track. I just did not like it. Do not recommend. Book talk, you did me wrong. That was bad. Anyways.
We need to go. It all comes back. This is another character that needs therapy. I'm like, yeah, everyone has trauma, and adulthood is learning how to navigate that trauma and still live life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like she just like fully stopped living. And then the guy, the billionaire main character too, like he was like downright mean to her. Like, it was just not good. Don't recommend it. But on the other side of that, I did finish reading The Wedding People by Alison Espach. You will like this book.
Okay.
A lot. It is about a woman that is going through a very traumatic experience in her life. And after a divorce, her pet dies. It was just, she didn't feel like her career was going in the right places. So she decides to like, spend a little bit of money, go take a hotel room, and then she's gonna pretty much end her life there. But then she ends up being in like this weird wedding party where like that room was not supposed to be free, but it was. And she just kind of gets absorbed into all of the wedding activities.
This is such a great premise.
It was great. Like it was like the whole drama, the banter between the people, all of the drama that kind of happens around a wedding that is so stupid while she's navigating like real life, like trauma decisions. It was so good. The ending, you're gonna love it because it's an open-ended ending. Like it doesn't give you full closure, which I don't like personally, but I think it works for this book quite well. It was just beautifully done. I think you should read this book. It's a really
you've convinced
good
me.
one.
The premise is great.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I devoured that thing in like 2 or 3 days. It was fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
So 2 things today. Really bad one and a really good one. What about you?
I don't have much to report except for I'm still checking through Catalina, which is, again, very good, super strong writing. I had to set it down for a second because we also picked up Oathbound this week, and we had just finished our deep dives into Legendborn and Bloodmarked, and I had to know what happened because we had such an open head. I need to know what's happening with my girl Bree and Alison and everyone else. And I'm like 150 pages into that.
Ooh.
It's really good.
I haven't started it yet. That's supposed to be my starting homework this weekend. So we'll see.
Yeah, we are going to be doing a deep dive into it. It's a good evolution of the series.
Okay, that's you picked those words very delicately, I noticed.
I don't want to give anything away. I just think Tracy Deonn is a writer's writer. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a YA book. It deals with romantasy themes or, fantasy themes. These are 16-year-olds, so like the fantasy or the romance you're going to get with 16-year-olds. But she is so good at structure and interweaving real life elements and real life themes that like teenagers and people that live in modern society are dealing with in terms of like race and then moving into your identity in your teens and parental relationships and like the grief and all these other things. Those are all like so equally important to the magic. I don't know. I'm really going on right now. It's just good. That's the point.
It's a fantastic series. Like, I really loved it. Book 2 for me was incredible. Like, it just helped put everything together into context for what happened in book 1. So I cannot wait to kind of start doing book 3 because the bar has been set really high. But fantastic writer. The storytelling is incredible. Obsessed with the magic. The characters, everything is so complex and beautiful, especially for a YA fantasy. It's just incredible.
I know, and I do feel like the world is sort of like the tendrils of the world are sort of coming together for me now, where I'm understanding the magic more. I'm understanding how it relates to each other. It's good.
The world building, top notch.
Top notch.
Incredible world building, especially on book 1 and like the first half of the second book. Like, with, not to compare, like Rebecca Yarros probably has like a different process, but we started getting more of the world building like at book 3, which is kind of late in the game for a normal fantasy story.
Exactly.
But with Tracy, she started laying the groundwork for that very early on, and I really appreciated that, which for some people, maybe that's why they didn't get into it as much, because in book 1, you're just kind of getting to learn all the things, but it pays off, y'all. Like, it's so good.
It's so satisfying. And then the writing, there are like multiple things where I underlined it. I took a picture of an entire page that I was reading last night because I was like, oh God, the writing is so good. It was like a gut punch to my dead heart. She's just great. Yeah, anyway,
I love her.
we're really gushing about this.
Yeah, this is just like, think of it as your warm up for us gushing about her, because that's all we're gonna be doing for like for another 2 episodes.
Should we take a break and then go to book news?
Yeah, let's do it. Welcome back, everybody. So now we're going to get into some book news, and to get us started, there is a big rumor going around that Selena Gomez is rumored to play the titular character in the Netflix adaptation of Taylor Jenkins-Reid's The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. As we know, there's already a director and a writer that has already been attached to the project. I am really excited about this, and I can honestly see her playing Evelyn Hugo here. Like, I think that she could pull it off. Obviously, I don't know but as the character ages, how they're going to potentially do it. Maybe casting a different older person might be better. But I think this has a lot of potential, and I'm excited about this.
Me too. I love Selena Gomez, and I loved this book. So
yeah, I'm so excited. What do you have for us?
Okay, there is a big online brouhaha because author Sophie Lark's Sparrow and Vine was dropped by a publisher after early readers of the ARC gave a lot of feedback on the treatment of some of her characters. The book was said to have praised Elon Musk at multiple points, and given the current climate, people really did not appreciate that. And it also perpetuated racist stereotypes. An example line of that is, at one point Lark wrote, "I don't want to sound ignorant, but shouldn't there be a crew of people with questionable work visas picking these grapes for us?" Magda's rolling her eyes. It's super disgusting. Yeah. And her response annoys me even more, so I'm going to read it to you because I want to get your thoughts. She says, "Reading your messages and hearing your perspectives over the past 24 hours has been humbling, and I want to acknowledge the pain my words have caused. I am truly sorry. My intention was to craft and demonstrate a flawed main character, but instead I wrote dialogue that read as attacking to a community that I care about very much. During the editing process, Bloom recommended removing these lines, and I made the wrong choice in keeping them. And now I understand that impact matters more than intent, and I regret that my words caused harm. Please don't blame Bloom for my mistakes. What do you think about that?
I think she is sorry that she got caught doing this.
Right.
I don't think she's sorry because she wrote them. I think she's sorry because there was a backlash. She's sorry about the backlash, not because like she was wrong in writing these lines.
I completely agree because one, the fact that they were like, this is not a good idea.
Exactly.
And she doubled down and kept them in.
Exactly.
Two, like, you can write a flawed character in a lot of other ways and not this way. And when she said like, oh, a community I very much care about.
I don't believe that.
What is that community to you? Yeah. Why didn't you name it? What is the community in your mind that
She's just being generic as shit just because like, just to make a broad statement like, I am sorry. But yeah, I don't believe her.
Yeah, like say it. Say like, I made an assumption about people like migrant workers and it came off as racist. She should have just named the thing. Yeah. But it tells me like she got in trouble with the publisher and she's trying to like get heat off of them because they were pissed.
100% agree, especially with that ending sentence of like, don't blame Bloom for my mistakes. This was just a PR written statement on behalf of like the publishing companies as they're cutting ties with her.
1000%. It annoyed me. And even the premise of the book, which I read, is a modern book about an arranged marriage. And I was like, oh, this girl's like, good riddance. Bye.
Yeah. I'm glad there's some consequences. Listen, I'm all for freedom of speech. You can do whatever, but then if you're going to do that, you're going to have to deal with the consequences and backlash of other people criticizing your work. So you either double down and just say like, yep, I'm a racist piece of shit. or you just like, don't pretend that you're like, oh no, I'm sorry. Just because you're now getting caught and people are not going to be running to read your book anymore.
Thank you. Like, who's that guy that wrote The British Office? His name is not coming to me right now.
The who?
The guy that wrote the original British Office. The comedian.
Gervais.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
So he has this whole thing like about cancel culture where he was like, it's actually a really fair system. You're making the choice to say something because you have the right to do it, and people have the right to respond accordingly. And if you get canceled, which I hate this work, he's like, that's the balance in scales.
Exactly.
Like, what is wrong with that? You're like, if the mass majority of people are like, you suck because you said this shitty thing and you decided to take the risk of doing it anyway, it all shakes out. Like, exactly. What is the problem?
100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Anyway, okay, next news story. This is going to be a really quick one, but continuing on drama in the book world, the American Booksellers Association had to use an entire newsletter to respond to a bunch of independent bookstore owner criticism that they got during their ABA Winter Institute, which is basically just like a conference for independent booksellers. They did a bunch of panels and had a bunch of speakers, and there were a number of things that got brought up during their community forum. One of them is that the organization did not take a stance on bookstores that had carried authors from Israeli and Palestinian booksellers that were hurt during the conflict, and they wanted them to take a firmer stance on saying, like, we support the carrying of texts from both of these worlds. And the other thing is that many speakers indicated that they had questions about how they distributed financial compensation and that it was unequal. And one of those, Jazzy McGilbert, who owns the Reparations Book Club, actually raised it to the organization. They gave her kind of a half-hearted stance on how they provide that compensation and then said that they make exceptions for certain speakers, and she said the exceptions were part of the problem and that she had a hard time getting equal compensation despite doing the same work. So again, ABA in trouble right now, getting really a lot of feedback from the members of their community.
I wonder what kind of like kickbacks and things like that we're probably receiving in order to kind of let that go on, and probably some level of corruption happening that it's unfortunate, especially for such a noble cause, like which is like helping support independent bookstores. You know, the noblest of cause, you know, one of the novels, but a really noble one, in my opinion.
I agree.
So very unfortunate that we're
one of the
seeing
most important members of our community right now are libraries and independent bookstores.
Agreed.
Full stop.
Yeah. So it's very unfortunate that we're seeing this type of level of, not care and corruption a little bit in that space.
And speaking of that, please go donate to Put It in a Book, our local community bookstore, Black Pearl Books, non-profit organization that is currently providing banned books to areas that do not have access to them. That's just a little plug.
I love it. All right. And last but not least, A new set of writings by Harper Lee is coming out later this year. The collection is called The Land of Sweet Forever, Stories and Essays, and will be published in October. The scripts were discovered in Lee's New York City apartment after her death in 2016, and the stories span from like Alabama to New York City. As you all know, she didn't really write that much. Obviously, To Kill a Mockingbird has a very special place in my heart because that was the very first book that I read in English. You never forget your first. So it's kind of beautiful to see that there was a couple of essays that have been found, and we'll get to see a little bit more of her writings.
Do you know that there's like a big conspiracy theory behind Harper Lee? Because she actually did write a lot, but she didn't publish very much. And she did a lot of research on true crime. And so there is a bunch of conspiracy theories that Truman Capote's In Cold Blood was heavily influenced, if not directly stolen, by her writing, because they were really good friends.
Oh, no way. I did not know that.
Yeah.
The drama in the writing world continues. I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you are a big fan of Harper Lee like I am, go check it out. It'll be out in October.
All right, let's take a little break and then come back with our reactions to Mickey 17. Welcome back. We are going to get into our movie reactions for Bookish readers, and we're going to start this week with Mickey 17. Magda and I saw this the first day that it came out because we absolutely loved the book Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton. Go read it. I have been waiting 4 days to talk to you about this. We just left the theater and said not a word to each other. And I have said not a word to Magda about this while I've been waiting. I cannot wait. What are your initial thoughts?
I just want to reiterate how awkward it was our goodbye at the movie theater where we just looked at each other and just started walking away towards our car and we didn't speak again for 48 hours. It was just the most awkward goodbye, but it was all in the name of the podcast.
All in the name of you're going to hear our genuine reactions. We have not said a word about how we felt about this movie.
Oh, God. Initial reactions, I loved it. I really did enjoy it. I really did enjoy it. There were a couple of changes that I was not expecting, but I think I really want to discuss that here in another section of like the things that they changed from the book to the movie. But I really enjoyed it. I think the acting, especially Robert Pattinson's acting chops, were that guy can play a psychopath. I want him to play a psychopath in the future. Like the way that he played the two different characters between Mickey 17 and Mickey 18, night and day, which is so shocking to me. There were a couple of things that we're going to get into where I wasn't a big fan of some of the changes, but we'll talk about that here shortly. But I did really like the movie. What about you?
I had really mixed feelings on the movie. I think it's beautiful. Bong Joon Ho is an incredible director, and he does weird visualizations like this so well. Like, it's beautiful to look at. The way that he represented the creepers, who are the native life forms on the planet of Niflheim, where they've landed in this, it's really good. We didn't even set the stage, but the basic premise of this book and this movie is that it's a colony of people who have traveled from another planet to colonize a new planet, and they have what's called an expendable, which is basically a part of the mission, a person who is in the mission who does the most dangerous jobs, and if they pass away, they're reprinted out, and so there's like iterations of them, and this iteration is Mickey 17. That's where we start following them. So I think in that way, Bong Joon Ho does that really well. The world is beautiful. I personally felt like it removed some of the emotional core of the book around what it means to be human and what it means to like navigate these relationships when you're an iteration of your original self. I don't think it did as good of a job as the book in that.
I think we kind of disagree on that. I think they made one of the things that I love about the book so much. It was that Edward Ashton didn't tell the reader how to feel at certain moments, and I think the movie tried to tell the reader, like the viewers, how to feel at that moment.
You're right.
Like, I think it was a little bit too much on your face, where they were actually telling us very vividly the differences between the characters, the conversations between Mickey and Nasha, and with the other crew members about like not treating him like as if he was a real human. I think that I feel like I felt that it was a little bit more in your face than it was on the book, and that was one of the things that I wasn't a big fan of, because it's kind of treating the viewers as if they didn't get it. But I get it. It's a 2-hour, 3-hour movie, so you're not gonna spend as much time as we did when you're reading the book. So you're gonna have to be a little bit more on your face about how to feel about everything that is going on in the storyline.
Yeah, I think what I mean by, like, you're right. The emotional beats are more in your face. I think the book leaves it more open-ended. It's up to you as the reader to decide, is Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 the same person? And even though at some point, like Nasha says at one point, like they're just iterations of the same person, the way that Robert Pattinson acts it out, Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 are distinctly different. They talk differently. They have different emotions. Like Mickey 17 is very like meek and sweet. Mickey 18 is, I would argue, like a freaking psychopath. He's very aggressive. And so like I missed having that kind of more ambiguity, that weird push-pull of being like, who am I rooting for here?
That I agree with. And I think that's why like the movie didn't let the viewer make that decision. The book does make you, like, that's why I think we went through like a little bit of an existential crisis after reading the book, because we were like, are they the same people? Are they not? And the differences between Mickey 7 and Mickey 8 were quite subtle. Like you can only like, you have to really dig deep into the lines to be able to kind of differentiate between the two. That was not the case in the movie. It was way more in your face, which I don't hate it. I understand like the whole concept of it. And I feel like I'm going to be one of those annoying people like the book was better. So I'm trying to trying to differentiate and kind of come in through the movie like the way that a viewer will see it. And I think it works for somebody that hasn't read the book. Another thing that it was a little bit different, that I wasn't a big part of, and I was thinking maybe we could get a little bit more screen time on this, was the natalists. There are no natalists in the movie. I mean, there's like a church and a culty vibe, but they're not really. Were they called the natalists in the movie? I can't remember. I don't think they were. It was just like a big church organization, and it just in the book it feels like it's more concentrated on, like, to your point that you mentioned earlier, whether or not Mickey has a soul or not, and in their heads it doesn't. That was not touched really in the movie. I think somebody made like an off comment of like one body, one soul when they're trying to pass it, but that was it. And then we just kind of have this like creepy organization, churchy thing controlling the shots, but that's about it. And I just feel like we could have spent a little bit more time with that.
Okay, so what you're talking about is actually something I did like about the movie. Oh. So this is going to be funny because we're going to be, I thought we were going to go through like everything we liked and everything we didn't like, but I think we're going to go through thematically because I think we reacted to different things. I loved, the movie is a lot more heavy-handed, in addition to it being more heavy-handed in the emotions, is a lot more heavy-handed in the politics. Mm-hmm. And so in the book, Hieronymus Marshall is just like the general of the colony, and he's kind of like he's just keeping things strict within the colony, but it doesn't have a relationship to any place on Earth. He's not like, he is a natalist, but that's secondary to his role on the colony. Here, Mark Ruffalo plays
something Kennedy.
A version of that. Yeah, he's called something Marshall. Hold on. Kenneth Marshall.
Oh, Kennedy. Why did I say Kennedy?
Kenneth. Uh-oh.
Kenneth Marshall.
Kenneth Marshall. And they very much go into the politics of Earth that have led to colonization. So essentially, they want to ban expendables on Earth. Kenneth Marshall is this religious zealot, and he's exactly what you're thinking of, like megachurch kind of guy. And there's a lot of visual imagery around like people wearing red hats and like having this very interesting attitude that they're like, you know, strong supporters. And those are the people on this colony. They are all sort of people who are followers of Kenneth Marshall and his wife Ilfa, who's a new character in the movie. And Mark Ruffalo plays that character so well. I thought it was so funny and weird. Like in the book, you get the sense that Hieronymus Marshall is like a true, like, you know, pious man in his mind, but it's not really like the purpose of his being, whereas this is like cartoonish version of a religious zealot. Yeah.
They can, you know, Mickey 17 is also like very, very shy, like has a lot of anxiety, like very like a nervous person. But like Nasha is the one that's taking care of him and taking control. Same thing you can kind of see with Kenneth Marshall. He's just a puppet. Like his wife is the one that is handling and doing everything. And that's something that I really enjoyed about this movie, is that the women have the power around it, even though the men pretend that they do, which I really love that concept in the movie, where like Nasha is the powerful one, and at the end of the movie, she's the one that pretty much ends up fixing and changing a lot of the things. And then we can kind of tell from like Kenneth's point of view that is the wife that is like telling him exactly what to do, what to say, and kind of guiding him to make all those decisions. And the Kenneth, who is supposed to be like the head of the cult or whatever it is, this colony, politician, like he's just a dummy. They're just being told what to do.
He plays a dummy really well. He's obviously there's strong signaling to current politics in this movie. But you're so right. I didn't even make that connection, but you're so right on the women. And there's a couple of shots that I really loved. It's the beginning and the end of the movie where Mickey is dressing Nasha for her day, where he's like tightening the straps on her uniform. And it's those emotional beats that, even though I think some of it is overhanded or heavy-handed, that intimacy of him like just doing something for her, nice for her.
Mm-hmm. That's my favorite thing.
I loved it too.
Mm-hmm. I loved, and I think that was like why it told me, especially like seeing that like the women in this movie just had significant more power or were more important than the men in here, but again in like a background type of way where they're the ones that are actually pulling the strings and doing everything. And like you just like let the men pretend that they have the power.
No, I think you're right, because the new iteration of Kat Chen, who is Kai Katz in this movie, which is the other kind of female character that Mickey is working with as Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 are alive at the same time. She has a lot of power too. She is a believer in the Kenneth Marshall ideology of this movie, but she's also like the head of security, and she's funny. Like she is funny and strong and likable in the movie, even when she's making mistakes or like taking a side that you don't want her to take. I found her to be sympathetic in both the movie and the book, but the movie really does a good job of making you like her relationship with Nasha and that little bit of competition. It's interesting.
Yeah, you kind of see a little bit of that too with the scientists, like the head of the science guy, like he was just like a puppet, and then you have like this young woman that is the one that like is trying to rebel but like silently, and like she's the one that's trying to help Mickey and everybody trying to do the right thing within the storyline. And I really love that. Like they became the moral guides of the story in a way, whether it was good or bad. They were the ones that were kind of leading the story forward.
Maybe that's the theme of the movie. You're like really surfaces for me. It's like men making problems that women have to fix.
Regardless if you're in the good or the bad side. Like they're the ones that have to clean it up.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I know there's a lot to take in there. There's a lot of I actually did like the movie. If my initial reaction was like, I just have such love for the book that it took away some things that I really like, but there are new things in the movie that are just super good, and that the portrayal of women, I think, is one of those things.
Yeah. One of the things though that I wish there were two things too that I don't know if I think calling them that I didn't like them is a little bit too much of a strong word, but it was just some changes that I'm still kind of thinking about, and Berto is even more of an asshole in the movie. Oh my God,
I wrote that down too.
Like, even, I mean, like, we kind of called that out in the book that he was just like, oh, he's kind of a shitty being. Yeah. But like, within the norms of being like a little bit of a narcissist, I guess. Yeah. This one, he was just like straight up evil.
He's a psychopath.
Yeah, he's crazy. And I don't know how I feel about that because, and this is kind of what kind of got me a little wrong. Like, Mickey 17 was a little bit of a dummy in the movie. And I didn't appreciate that because like he was fully being taken advantage by a whole bunch of people, and he was okay with it. And I feel like that wasn't the case in the book, because in Mickey 7 was kind of picking up on these clues, and like he was kind of hating on Berto in the book, not in the movie. Like in the movie, Mickey 17 is still kind of looking out for him in a way, and I just didn't like that.
No, you're right, because it's like all the characters are turned up to 1,000 in the movie. So like in the book, basically like Mickey 7 makes a bad decision. He makes a bad betting decision, and that's how he gets in this bad situation with the mob boss, which is why he leaves his planet to go on this colony mission, because he's in debt. Here, it's all Berto's fault. He gets him into this like macaroon business, takes out a loan without Mickey's permission, sells drugs on the ship. Like he's just a shitty, terrible friend. And this was another reason that I struggled with the characterizations in the movie, because Berto sucks. And then also, I couldn't understand why Nasha would ever be interested in Mickey 17, because he's like almost childlike in a very like, I want to be like, is he in a mental position to make decisions like this, to have a relationship like this? Because he seems very gullible.
Very frail. Like it was just not, like that was the thing that kind of struck me as weird. We do see a little bit of character development at the end where he seems to be getting a little bit more confident and strong. But again, I get what the director's vision was here. Like he doesn't have a lot of time, and he has to make like drastic changes and differentiations between the characters, because we as the book readers already kind of gotten down the path of like, okay, we know that they're kind of different, but it took us a journey Now in a 2-hour movie, you don't have the time to do that. So you have to make it like everything super drastic and very different. But within the context of the story, I love that you called it out. I don't know if Nasha would be attracted to Mickey 17. Like that just doesn't seem to work well.
No, because, but this is what I will say. Again, this is the push-pull of the book and the movie. I like Mickey in the book more. Nasha in the movie, that actress, hold on, I wrote down her name because I was like, I can't take my eyes off of you. You're so funny. Naomi Ackie. She is fantastic in it. I loved her from the jump. Mm-hmm. She's a great actress. She's great in the movie. She's super strong, super smart, very funny, flawed, like a little bit jealous.
Possessive a little bit.
Possessive is the right thing with her love of Mickey, because there's at one point where he's like talking to another woman. She like kind of grabs his face and kisses him. Like, I love her.
Yeah, she was great. I mean, like her and Kenneth were like Kenneth Marshall. Like those were my favorite characters.
I know. The acting was so good.
It was so good. And honestly, Mickey 18, the sociopathic tendencies of Mickey 18, Robert Pattinson playing that character and how much his voice changed when he was doing that, I was like taken aback. I did not know that he had that type of range in him. And I guess he's an incredible actor, but I want to see him being like a psycho in a movie. I think he could definitely pull that off.
He's just more aggressive. Like, I think Nasha at one point says, this is mild Mickey and this is habanero Mickey. That line really made me laugh because it is exactly what they are. Like, I think he's more like aggressive and he has more
assertiveness.
He's more assertive. Yes. Thank you. But he's not psychotic in the way that Berto's psychotic. Like, he's not just like killing people or whatever. He makes decisions more swiftly.
Yeah. His decision making always tends to lead to violence. But the reason why he's making those decisions is always on behalf of protecting others.
Yes.
Like he get into fights to protect Mickey 17. He tried to threaten Kenneth's life because he made Mickey 17 like really, really sick. And at the end, he sacrifices himself to protect all of the creepers. So like all of his decision makings are coming from a good place. It's just that he reacts very aggressive, but it's coming from like a good intention, honestly.
Yeah. And that's a change that I do really, I appreciate, is that it's sort of like shades and tints of the personality, right? Like, and it does make sense. They're sort of saying like these printers are still run by people who are really dumb in a lot of situations. Like, you have all this technology at your hands and you're still got kind of dumb humans running it. And so it does make sense that there would be like minor variations from version to version. And so I don't hate that. I do get it. I just thought it was like a little extreme for my taste. Like, I do think Robert Pattinson is a great actor, but I hated the voice that he used for Mickey 17. I thought it was a wild choice and definitely like, and I'm going to say this so strongly, unfuckable. Like, no way Nasha is listening to that voice and being like,
yep,
I can't wait to get you in bed, even with only 200 people around. I don't know. I didn't get it. But I did like that.
But like, I think Nasha kind of calls this out. Like, she has loved every single version of himself. From 1 through 17. She accepts all of them. And I thought that was really sweet because she knows in her heart that they might be a little bit different, but she still accepts them for who we are. So we just kind of got to meet Mickey 17, who was this version. I wonder what the other versions were like. That is kind of what created that initial connection.
You're so right. The portrayal of the love story, and I think this is what Edward said when we interviewed him, like that for him was the most important part of the book, and it does come through. Like there's a part in the book that they keep in the movie where Mickey has 2 quick deaths in succession between Mickey 6 and Mickey 7, and she's basically just holding him so that he doesn't have to be alone, and it's like very beautiful in the movie.
And she pushes her way into it. And it was a very heartwarming moment. Like it just kind of truly made us believe on why Nasha and Mickey are endgame. So it was just so sweet.
And it's just like, I love the power balance between them. Like, like, and maybe it does work with Mickey 17 having the demeanor that he has, is that he softens Nasha in a little bit. Like, Nasha is forced to make really difficult decisions even before she has power on the base. Like, I don't know if she's like security. They don't really like go into the movie exactly what she does, but she is clearly really highly respected and has to be a bit hard and a bit like, maintain her power and maintain this like visage of like, no emotion And I think Mickey allows her to just be like silly and loving and like take a break from that.
And he takes care of her, right?
Takes care of her, yeah.
And it's the other way around when she has to be on duty. She's the one that has to put in the order. She's the one that has to do everything. And he's the one that's actually taking care of her.
No, you're really turning me around. Maybe I do love Mickey 17. I said that why would she love him? But now I'm like, well, now it kind of makes sense. I rescind my comments.
Was there anything else that you didn't like or did like about the movie before we talk about the things that we missed from the book?
Okay, things that I think that I really loved in the movie is, one, I love the humor. I think the humor is different than it is in the book. Like, the book is more focused on snark. This is more focused on, like, absurdity, and that's what Bong Joon Ho does really, really well, is just, like Ilfa, the wife of Kenneth Marshall, is obsessed with sauces. It just keeps coming up in the movie. It's apropos of nothing. There's no reason for it. It's just, like, a weird, funny through line in the movie and in the dialogue, and I thought that was great.
One of my favorite things that she says in the movie is like, yeah, making great sauces is the litmus taste of humanity or something like that. And I was just like, what? I just like had a big old like giggle after she said that, because everything is so ridiculous and they're just so out of touch with everything. But it worked out perfect for their characters.
It just does such a good job of separating like the people in power from the people who are actually like setting up this colony, giving them an instant difference. Is like these moments. He does that so well.
Yeah, it was great. The other thing, one thing that I also wanted to call out is, I don't know if I liked it or not. This is one of the things that I'm also kind of like on the
You're not going to get a straight liked or disliked. It's
sorry.
all very like shades.
It's a little different, but I kind of appreciated that they made some of the creepers babies. And I think I either like it or not. I like it because I think when you're watching the movie, it's going to make you feel more compassionate for the natives that are in the planet. So giving everything a baby form is an evolutionary thing about making people wanting to protect the babies. That's why puppies and all the little newborns are so freaking adorable, because evolutionarily speaking, we want to keep them safe and protect them. And I think that's what Bong Joon Ho did in this movie. With the creepers, we have a very different scene than we do in the book, where one of the little babies once gets into their building that is in Niflheim. And the thing about it is that people want to shoot it, but you as the viewer, like, you want to protect it because it's so cute and adorable, and it's like all slimy like a little baby hippo. And you don't kind of see that type of thing in the book. So I think I got more of an immediate reaction with the natives to want them to protect them than what I did in the book. I did get there in the book, but it was a longer journey than what it was shown in the movie portrayal.
Yes, I think this is the thing that we're grappling with. Is like the movie is a lot more heavy-handed in everything, and like the portrayal of the creepers, I loved the portrayal of the creepers in the movie. In the book, I sort of got them. They're so, in my mind, they were like kind of centipedes, but they were looked like they were not cute or fuzzy. In the movie, he definitely does a good job of making them, even though they're not like a human form at all, he does make them adorable. And so you don't really have to think about whether or not they should be treated well or not well. Like, the books really forces you to be like, what would you do if you were in this base and you thought that you were under attack from these like native beings? Would you protect yourself? It's a lot more like less cut and dry. Yeah. Whereas in the movie, you're like, well, look at them. They're obviously adorable. It's freaking psycho. They have like these elephant-looking eyes and like these cute little mudang bodies, like Magda said. And so you're just like, whoa, only a psycho would hurt them. You don't get to think about it, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, and I think that's kind of where I'm struggling over like why I love the book, because I was able to make my own decisions. To your point, in the movie, we're being told what to feel. Yeah. Just a little bit of emotional manipulation, but it's just to kind of get the viewer there a lot faster than what we did.
It works. Yeah. It just takes, it's like the fun is different in the movie. Mm-hmm. The fun of the book is thinking about the philosophy and the ethics and all these things behind it. The fun of the movie is just seeing something silly happening on screen with like a really cool premise and a strong character arc.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another thing that maybe we can kind of, if you like, we can kind of jump into some of the things that we missed from the book that didn't make it into the movie. Yeah. I kind of miss not having multiple planet stories. Same. So like right now we were just kind of stuck on Earth versus Niflheim, and that was it. Like it wasn't, we didn't get like the story of Longshot or Alan Manikova, all of that everything that he did happened in Earth, not in another planet. And I feel like it would have been more impactful if we would have kept it in other planets.
I agree. I don't know why it had to be Earth.
Exactly.
I thought that was a weird choice. Like, in a world in which you are studying colonies, your base of operations is very unlikely to be Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just logistically speaking, doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to me either.
Yes.
I agree with you. And I miss the Galt planet, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a microcosm. He was just like a serial killer in the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So I feel like we didn't get as much of the impact of Alan Manikova's character from the book as we did in the movie. I'm glad they kept the story, but I think it would have been a lot better if it had happened, what happened in the book. It's just so good. So it's kind of sad that that didn't make it. Another thing that I kind of missed, and I think we just kind of talked about it briefly, which was that I felt like Mickey 17 had a lot more agency on himself in the book than what he did in the movie. At the end of the book, in Mickey 7 actually manipulated the general into like keeping the creepers alive, like pretending that he left, like that the creepers are like a bomb and they were gonna destroy everything, so therefore we need like a default peace talk. In the movie, that doesn't really happen. It's Mickey 18, the one that pretty much kind of brokers the deal in a way with the big creeper, and he sacrifices himself and then just kind of sets the peace. They're able to kill the Kennedy. But I keep calling Kennedy. They're able to kind of kill Kenneth Marshall, and then everything just kind of settles and it revolts, and we're back to fine. It just felt like Mickey 17 didn't really have too much to deal with, like the ending of the book. Like I think other people made that happen.
Yeah, I think I don't actually mind the ending that much, because I think the visual of the book and the way that he sort of brokers this, like, because basically he tells the general that he gave the creepers a weapon, and so they have to broker peace because they have a power imbalance now that they need to work through. In the movie, it's a battle scene basically that you're getting. And I think you have to do that because it looks better. Like, it gives you something to look at. The book version, it's like, what am I going to see here? It's not going to be very fun to watch. But I also think, like, it's where Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 personalities and how they address it are really come to the forefront. Because Mickey 18 is only ever going to be able to solve the problem through violence. That's his way. And Mickey 17 is only ever going to be able to solve the problem by building relationships and being nurturing. Like, if you put them, they're mom and dad, Mickey 17 and Mickey 18.
Okay.
Like, Mickey 17 is mom, Mickey 18 is dad, in like a traditional, gender norm format of personality types. Like, Mickey 17 is maternal. He wants to save the baby that they've taken. He wants to like interact with the species and build a connection with them. And Mickey 18 is going to just fucking wreck shop. And that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, like, I don't know if I like Mr. Like, it's just like the endings are wildly different.
They are different.
They're wildly different. Towards the end of the movie, they do end the replica program. They're no longer going to be printing anymore. And it was thanks to Nasha. Nasha was the one that kind of brokered all of those items with the politics back on Earth, I guess. Mm-hmm. So it was a little bit different. I'm not saying I liked it better or less. I just kind of like that in the book, Mickey 7 was the one that did a lot of that.
No, I'm with you.
I don't think in the movie he had too much to do with it.
I didn't like also that the Earth was still in communication. I think back to your thing about the planets, I liked that Niflheim in the book was its own thing. Mm-hmm. They had to navigate their own setting up of society and like what it would look like with relating with the creatures or the creepers and what was natively on the planet. Like, I liked that it was felt more on its own, and it annoyed me that Earth had like communications with this planet. I thought that was like unnecessary and stupid and took me out of the story a little bit.
Maybe one last thought. I love the retro technology being used in the movie quite a bit. Like the way that they upload the memories is literally like a little brick. And like it has like a couple of like LED lights on it. I just thought that was pretty funny. And then the printing concept, I don't know if you caught this, but it's very reminiscent of like a 1990s printer where the body's kind of moving back and forth.
Like a dot matrix printer,
out. Yeah. Yes. It gave me like a really good laugh because the body just keeps moving like shaking back and forth as they're being printed. And I thought that was like a really great attention to detail.
It gave Severance vibes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was so great. As a whole, like I really did enjoy the movie. Like I really liked it. And especially if you haven't read the book or anything, it's gonna be like such a fun ride. It's just that, like, for people that have read the book, don't expect that it's gonna be like exactly following everything. But I feel like it did a pretty good job following like the general context of the story. When the first opening scene came up, I just looked at Lindsay because it's exactly how I had imagined it when I was reading the book. I was just like, I got goosebumps when the first opening scene came up because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I thought about. And I really appreciated that. Like you can tell that the script writers and like the director, they kind of went to the same place that a lot of us readers went to, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of like when we did our practical magic episode between the movie and the book, if you go into them wanting different things and knowing that they're going to be different things, I think you're going to have a good time watching this movie. It's pretty, there's a lot of good things happening with the characters. There's cool things happening. It's funny. It's weird. There's nothing like it in my mind. It's completely different than anything I've seen before. And so as a standalone piece of art, I think it's fantastic, and Bong Joon Ho does not disappoint. If you're looking for more of an existential conversation about what it means to be human, what it means to have a soul, what it means to build relationships, you got to go to the book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100% agree. Yeah. Fantastic movie. I really enjoyed it, but very different vibes from the book.
Different vibes. All right. I think with that, we end it there.
All right. Thank you for listening to Literally Books, the podcast.
Where we say what we read.
And we mean what we say. Bye.